All right. Are we live? Is this thing on? Knock, knock. Now, how do we know when people are logging on? Guys, you got to bear with us on this one because this is a new thing for YouTube. It's short format lives, hence the video is vertical. So if some things go wrong, which they probably will, I apologize in advance. Let's just see if some of you guys still log back on. Oh, we're not live yet? Oh, we're live everywhere. Okay. So apparently this is going live across all platforms. I hope this is not live on OnlyFans because they have certain expectations, and I'm not willing, able, or ready for those type of expectations.
This goes well enough. We'll see.
Guys, for those of you just logging on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube Live, I'm going to talk about hot topics. Tag Heuer, right? Tag Heuer and Kith collaboration. Big deal. The whole internet is buzzing about it. Everybody's in my DMs asking me questions. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And I'm here to answer that. Also, going to talk about Only Watch. That's also kind of a hot topic. It came back. Still don't know why and how and what the controversy was. Everything is very, very hush hush, but we know that show is going on, and some people pulled out. Some people changed things around, so definitely want to talk about that. And obviously, I want to take any and all questions you guys may have. I just came back from Geneva, so obviously, there's going to be questions on that. All right, just gonna wait till we get about 100, and then we can get going. I am wearing the all crystal Zenith Defy, and this is their 0G Defy. So if you, I don't know how close you can see this, but you'll notice that the tourbillon cage is like jumping around everywhere. So with that said, the crystal aspect of it, they knocked it out of the park. Aesthetically, the 0G technology behind this is also pretty amazing. I actually talked about this in depth when we had the rose gold in. This was a limited edition to, I'm not sure how many, but tough to tell on the crystal case and tough to tell with my eyes. Can you see how many were made of these? You have better eyes than me. 10. They made 10 of these. And now there's only 9 out there because one is on my wrist. I actually received this morning. Amazing, pretty amazing watch. Retail price 150 and change. Don't remember exactly how much that was, which is reasonable for what it is, a full crystal case plus the complication. The rose gold, I believe, retailed for 120, if I'm not mistaken, which was also pretty reasonable for what it is. So how many people do we have on YouTube now?
60 on YouTube, 20 on Twitter, and 40 on Instagram.
I'm live on Twitter too. Wow. That's pretty badass. Anyway, guys, had a wonderful time in Geneva. Saw more brands that I can think of. I actually, after this live, I am doing some final touches on the Geneva video, and we decided to take a little bit of a different approach with that video. We decided that we're going to basically try to make it as if you were there with me, kind of like a walkthrough with some quick opinions, if anybody cares, of what I think. But in reality, is that a lot of you guys couldn't make it out to Geneva, and what you got fed is a ton of videos, a ton of Instagram posts, a ton of media overall on social media and written media of what Geneva was all about. I wanted to make a video that's going to allow you to formulate your own opinion of what you thought about the event overall, the overall environment, along with some watches, and kind of take you to places that maybe you may have not even had access to. Should you have gone to Geneva yourself? I got to sit down with some legends. I got to sit down with Jean-Claude Biver. I sat down with Martin Fryer and Felix Baumgartner from Urwerk. I sat down with Recep Recepi, one of the hottest independent watchmakers out there. Grubel Forze, just to mention a few. Obviously, there was the big company stuff, which was plastered all over. There's not much new I can tell you about that. But in the very least, if I can just give you a feeling of being there, or even if you were there seeing things that you didn't get a chance to see, then my goal would be accomplished with the video. We should have that out hopefully tomorrow. I'm hoping. That would be on the YouTube channel. Let's see. I think we're ready to talk about our topics, right? So I'm going to talk about. I'm going to start with Tag Heuer because Uh, this has been the buzzing thing for the last since what is it? It's been a few days, right? 1986, Tag Heuer made a Formula One watch, right? And it was actually a fairly popular watch back then. Formula One as a sport back in 1986 was still popular, not as popular as it is today. It's not as mainstream as it is today. I remember not so long ago wanting to watch a Formula One race. I wouldn't get it on ESPN. I would get it on like ESPN 17, how they have the little sub channels and stuff. You would have a hard time actually trying to watch every single race, right? Nowadays we have the app where you can watch every single race. Now these races are being shown in every single video, and I mean every single major channels. We have now 3 races in the United States. United States being a huge market, which is a big achievement, and of course, Drive to Survive from Netflix took that sport to a completely different level, which is good to see because I'm a big Formula One fan. Actually, wearing a Mercedes shirt right now. With that said, the watch itself was, very playful, very kitty-like, and so on and so forth. In comes Ronnie Fig. Ronnie Fig is a very permanent figure from Queens, New York. I think he was born in the early 80s. I'm a bit older than him. I think he was born in 1982. Great story with the guy himself. I have a lot of respect for Ronnie Fig and the business that he has built. Um, he started working at his uncle's stores. I think when he was like 13, it was some chain store that sold apparel, David Z, I think it was called, right? And this is where he got his first hands on designing stuff, right? Because he started bringing in footwear into the stores, lines of footwear. And the first thing I think he did was he designed a couple of shoes for Asics, right? That was like his first stunt as a designer. And that's who Ronnie Fig really is in heart. He's an artist and a designer and of course, a hell of a businessman. And his business grew. He opened up his first store in Brooklyn, then went on to Manhattan. Now I think they have like 14 different locations, and collaborations for him are just a normal thing. Everybody wants to collab with Ronnie Fig. I mean, Ronnie, if you're watching, want to do a collab, I'm in. Of course, he did collabs with the guys like Daniel Arsham, right? He did collabs with BMW. He made 150 BMWs M4s. So a very, very accomplished individuals. Why am I talking about him? Is because this was inspired by him. What's the matter, Ab? YouTube what? Why did it go private? See, I told you guys we're going to have some issues. We're going to take a small pause because YouTube decided to go private on us. Was it something I said? Was it something I said? I didn't say anything. I was talking about Ronnie Fig. Well, guys, maybe you can think of some questions while we're trying to figure out these technical issues on Instagram or wherever you are.
Yes, ask away. I'll read them out. Someone said he collaborated with Supreme.
Oh, I mean, the collaborations list for Ronnie Fig, it's just, like I said, when he did the BMW thing, which by the way, you guys know our Alex Serrano, he has that BMW. What an amazing car. I mean, I'm a fan of that car to begin with, the M4, but what Kith did is they just took it to the next level. I mean, in terms of design. And it wasn't like too over the top. It was subtle touches inside and on the outside. Like for those that know kind of thing. Just I think he knocked it out of the park with that. Also his stores, like if you guys have seen I don't remember what it was, but like if you walk into Kith, New York, if you've ever been there, you see a slew of white. What's that? I am live on YouTube? Okay. Sorry guys, we're back. Apparently YouTube decided to go private. I was just talking about Ronnie Fig, how in terms of design that you go into a store. I don't remember which store was which in the order that he was opening them, but like I know like the fourth store, the prominent thing in his stores is you see these white Nike sneakers, right? Like for his fourth store, he took Air Jordan 4s and he like decorated with them. Just little things. It's just like, oh, I'd love to see this in my living room, my office, right? But 1986, Tag Heuer watch, just to reiterate, this was Ronnie Fig's first watch. And that was the inspiration of this collaboration between Ronnie Fig and Tag Heuer because it was his first watch. Honestly, to me, it's a big flex to be able to go back to your childhood, to go back to your first ever fancy watch and be able to just say, hey, guys want to do a collab? And if I'm Tag Heuer, I'm going, yes, of course I do, right? Limited edition, right? They made 5 different pieces. I think 3 of them are, or 4, is it 6 pieces? Oh, 6 pieces. 4 of them are sold through Kith, and the other 2 are sold through Tag Heuer, if I'm not mistaken, right? Let's pull them up on the screen. Avi? No, it's 10 models. What am I saying? And they have a case of 10 models for $18,000, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I mean, it makes sense. They're $1,500 a piece plus the case. Makes sense that it's $18,000. A lot of people were screaming and yelling and saying, "I think this is too much money. I think this is too much money. It's a quartz watch. Yada yada yada." Well, we'll talk about that in a minute once we pull them up on the screen. But here the models. You have the just us, one of the sayings that you hear from Kith. And I like the fact that it says Kith Heuer rather than Tag Heuer. Again, it's subtle things from Kith. The back of the case has the Kith logos. You see it across the straps. It's these subtle things that Ronnie Fig and Kith do to make something a Kith collab. It's not too loud. It's not too much in your face. Still keeping the original watch, 34 millimeters. You kept the original size, which in retrospect, some people probably want a bigger watch, right? But the idea is to take the original, make those subtle changes to it. If you look at a Kith BMW versus a regular BMW M4, the car itself is the same, right? It's just those subtle touches that Ronnie does in terms of design that makes it different, and no different are these particular watches. Now, let's talk about the price, $1,500. And everybody's saying, well, it's $1,500, it's a quartz watch, and blah, 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 blah. Guys, it's still a Tag Heuer, right? Tag Heuer has a certain price level that they keep based on the name that they have. Tag Heuer is a major name. They're part of a major group, right? There are a ton of Tag Heuer fans out there. And just because this is a watch that, came back from long ago in a smaller size and colorful palette doesn't mean that it should be selling for $500. This is not a Omega slash X swatch, right? Omega X swatch was meant to be a cheap version watch, right? So, which means that, again, don't shoot me over this, but there are levels to quartz movements. There are better quartz movements. There are more expensive quartz movements. There are Swiss-made quartz movements versus non-Swiss-made quartz movements. There are levels to quartz movements as well. But I'm not here to justify the price. I'm here to just simply discuss what it is, look at all the controversy online, and we posted it on Instagram, and the main thing that people were talking about was um, the price and the size. Those were the 2 uh, uh, really main negatives thing, I would say. I would say 75% of your comments on these collabs were positive. People like it. I don't know how many people are out there will pick up the entire set at 18,000, but this is going to be one of those things that it can go one of 2 ways. It's going to sell out and sell out quickly if it hasn't already sold out, because I think they're making 250 to 300 pieces across each one. I don't know how many actual sets they're making, but that's not a lot of pieces. Again, this is not a Swatch collab where there's no limit to it, right? This is a limited edition. But considering the amount of diehard fans that are out there for Kith versus as well as Tag Heuer, I think between them, 2,500 pieces will get sold and get sold quickly. And don't be surprised if you see them online selling over list. I think also most of the people that are going to buy these, they're actually going to keep them because there are 2 collectible worlds that just clashed. We're talking about the market of clothing, sneaker, streetwear, and things of that nature. And look at that market. I mean, my son is in that business. How many nice sneakers sell at double, triple, quadruple their retail value, right? So you're bringing in all those guys, and a lot of the collectors that collect sneaker. By the way, Ronnie Fig is a very prominent sneaker collector. This guy's sneaker collection is insane. Would love to do a video on that one day. Well, maybe my son would probably do that one better than me. But you're looking at 2 worlds colliding. Now, I talked about the Swatch Omega collab. And one of the things I always said is it brought in new blood, brought in new collectors, brought in people that are not able to play even in $1,000 to $2,000 price range and be able to afford a particular fancy watch. But to them, buying a Swatch watch, which retailed not on the secondary, which retailed for around $250, was an affordable item. It was also a good item for somebody who was into watches to buy for their children that are younger, perhaps should not be wearing a fancier watch. So that was a big positive for somebody like me, creating new collectors, bringing in new blood, because somebody that's out there wanting that Swatch watch and bought it at Swatch, paid list, and wearing it proudly is someone that in the future will want to move up and continue maybe perhaps to a new Omega. Now, when it comes to Tag Heuer, you're getting a little bit of that just the same, because now you're buying, again, a prestigious brand. It's not a $200 watch, it's a $1,500 watch, or 18, is it 15 or 18? $1,500 watch, right? Oh, it's 18 when you buy 10 of them. Um, and now you're all of a sudden, I'm able to bring in somebody from the world of hypewear, streetwear, sneaker world, right? Think about the followers that Ronnie Fig and Kith have. Think about that client base that perhaps didn't think about buying a fancy watch, but now you're saying to them because that thing says Kith on it, right? There are many Kith collaborations that sold, miles over its MSRP, sold out in minutes and then resold after on the secondary market. I know this because my son has done it, right? There's a third thing to this. There's a third element. This is a Formula One watch, right? So now you have the Formula One fanatics, which there are a lot of new blood in that market to begin with over the last few years. Now you have a Formula One fanatics that are doing this. Now, this has nothing to do with Red Bull. Are we good? What's the matter? Uh, now now we're talking about Formula One. You now have people that follow Formula One that may not necessarily be watch fans, which is actually a few and in between. I go to Formula One events and I see the people that are at these events and the type of watches that they're wearing. Fancy watches and cars tend to go together. But you may find yourself in the situation where a guy that is sitting up in a suite on a paddock somewhere and paid a ton of money to get there already has himself a bunch of fancy cars and fancy watches is going to say to this, oh, wait a minute, this is a collectible I would like to display on a shelf alongside of my Formula One memorabilia. I'm one of those guys, right? Because I'm a Formula One fanatic. So there's Formula One, there's streetwear, sneaker world, or the world of Kith, I should say, right, in general.
So Kith is releasing them for like the models are colored after their locations, like Hawaii, Miami,
Oh,
Los Angeles, New York. Like
some new information is coming in. Apparently, these colorways are for location for each Kith store.
which do you think is gonna be the number one most wanted one? New York is the black one, Paris is like the red one, Miami is the cream, like the off-white one. Los Angeles is I think blue and yellow or
Honestly, I'm not sure. I think this is going to come down to preference.
I think New
Uh,
York is gonna be number one.
I think it. I think it comes down to preference. Just because, yeah, I'm on the website now. I think it becomes to preference. I mean, there's just the multicolor one, the yellow, green, and red. That's a very fun watch. There's one on a bracelet that I think may take preference over the rubber strap. Um, to say which one is going to be number one is going to be hard to say. I will say that you're going to see these on eBay shortly, selling over list. Um, and yeah, it's gonna be a tough pick.
Which would you choose?
The box,
The box.
honestly, I'd probably go with either the cream dial, the blue, or the black, like a solid color. You know, just
I signed up for black.
you signed up for the black one. Anyway, so do I think this was a good idea? Yes. Do I think this is beneficial both to Kith and Tag Heuer? Absolutely. This is a two-way beneficial situation, right? I'm sure Ronnie has a piece of the action, number one. And number two, I'm fairly certain that if Ronnie can bring some of the Tag Heuer fans and some of the Formula One fans into his world, just as Tag Heuer and Formula One are going to be bringing some of the Ronnie's fans into their world, I think it's a win-win situation. I don't think this is a flop. I think just as good about this as I think about um, the Swatch watch. Uh,
It's gonna be just powerful for the Tag Heuer brand.
of course. Listen, these brands right now, they're getting innovative. They're thinking outside the box. A page in the back. This is some of the conversation I had in Geneva with CEOs of certain brands. I'm not going to mention any names, but I talked to them and said, guys, an ad in the back of the Rob Report is no longer as powerful as an influencer online, on TikTok or wherever they may be, wearing your watch, talking about your watch. And again, you have to go with generations. Generations die out, right? The generations of walking into a stuffy boutique with a guy wearing white gloves and pouring you champagne and showing you a watch, those days are gone. People, and you have to cater to new blood, younger generations. And what's better to build young generation watch collectors by giving them a product that's A, affordable, that's cool, that has a story behind it, and that's tied to an icon in a particular field. And Ronnie Fig is a fucking icon when it comes to streetwear, when it comes to sneakers, when it comes to just the overall vibe of him as a designer. He is an icon. There's a reason why they reached out to him. And then on the other hand, you take an icon and then you tie it to the following that he has. Think about the social media exposure he has alone and his company, right? Just think about that aspect, and think about the fact that a lot of his stuff that he's made before and collaborations have resold over its retail value by secondary dealers over and over and over, and it continuously happens. They understand the value in that. And again, there's three things here, guys. There are three worlds here. There's the Formula One world, there's the watch world, and then there's the streetwear and sneaker world. And all those worlds are humongous. If somebody offered me to do a collab with Ronnie Fig and Formula and had to do something with Formula One, it'd be a huge win for me as a company. And Tag Heuer understands that and they understand it well. Now, I love the fact that they started with that price point, right? That they didn't do it on a watch that's six, seven, eight, nine, $10,000. Do I see that in the future? Maybe, or maybe not, because again, it's like when we, what is this thing? What's this thing called when YouTube pays you based on what KP? What are they?
CPM.
CBMs. Thank you. So CBMs is basically the value you get per thousand views, right? So uh, YouTube videos get monetized, right? So my YouTubes get monetized, and I told you guys before that we don't take that money. We actually spread that money at the end of the year among our social media team and video team, right? This is their bonuses. So whatever you guys buy badges, donate, super chats, all that stuff goes into a pool. At the end of the year, it gets spread among those that are responsible for putting this content out. So the CPM value is how much money you get per thousand views, right? And if you look at the CPM value of our videos, they're much higher, sometimes 4, 5 to even 10 times higher than, let's say, guys that are putting out content for, I don't know, makeup or toys, or uh, it's all about the eyes that are looking at this, right? So why is my CPM value higher? Because majority of people that watch our content are those that are out there shopping for watches. People that may have a bit more money or have a larger average spend. Because how does YouTube make money? They then take and advertise to those people. And it's a lot more expensive to advertise to a crowd of people that, let's say, of a certain financial means versus, let's say, children, right? So it's one of those things where it's the same here. Ronnie Figs, think of his average price point. Think about the average shopper that goes into Kith and what they buy, right? So if they did this with a $10,000 Tag Heuer, I think it would be a flop. If they plan on doing it in the future, it may still be a flop unless they make, I don't know, 10, 15, maybe 30 pieces, right? So this is where I'm at on Tag Heuer. Do we have any questions on this from YouTube or anybody else? Oh, comment. Okay. Anybody? Instagram, TikTok?
Instagram.
I would like to hear some questions before we move on to the next topic.
Secondary values on his collab thoughts.
Well, I just said it. I think that they come out of the gate and they trade over list. And again, very limited, 750, wait, hold on, 20, 250, 2,500 pieces is not a lot. I don't know if I can see them here. Hold on. The green and black dial is fantastic watch. Roman, do you prefer the Omega Blancpain Swatch collab or the Tag Kith? I'm going to go with the Tag Kith. I wish it was a little bit bigger. 34 millimeters, quite small. But with the Tag, I'm getting Formula One, I'm getting Ronnie Fig and Kith, and I'm getting Tag Heuer. And Heuer, and then Tag Heuer, a lot of history with this company, especially in the world of racing. So for me, I would go with this over the Swatch X Blancpain. What else you got?
We have one from Celine. She said, "Do you think limited was the way to go?"
Limited was absolutely the way to go because remember one of the stinks that was made about the Swatch Omega collab was the fact that these were not limited edition; they were mass produced. It was a big cash grab. I think in this case, this is more of exposure, right? This is almost like a marketing expense, if you will, right? You're colliding, you bring in the worlds in because the hope is you bring in a new client that never thought about a Tag Heuer to buy one of these and then to continue buying um, other Tag Heuer pieces. On the flip side is you bring in watch guys that are buying this, diehard Tag Heuer fans that maybe weren't as exposed to Kith, and now they will start paying attention to Kith and what the product that Kith sells, and as well as some exposure for Formula One just the same.
What do you think is gonna be easier to get, Kith or Tag?
What do you mean?
They're selling them at the boutiques.
I think it's going to have the same level of difficulty. You have to understand that the sheer volume of people at Kith is much larger than that of Tag Heuer, right? Just if you talk about followers and just eyes, sheer eyes, right? Because I've always said this, the world of clothing and sneakers is much bigger than that, or the world of watches, right? People, often wrote to me on Instagram or on YouTube saying, "Oh, you deserve a lot more followers for the content you put out." And I tell them that, look, if I was doing something in regards to something as general as makeup or kids videos and things of that nature, those worlds are much, much bigger, right, than that. The watch world is only about this big. It's one of the smallest worlds that lives on YouTube, right? Compare that to a car space, it's car space is humongous, right? Which is why you see a lot of bigger channels that put out as much content. Their followers get into the millions. When you get into entertainment on YouTube, obviously your followers get up there in numbers, right? So the world of Kith, in terms of sheer just eyes, is much bigger than the world of Tag Heuer. So but I think both will balance out because all the diehard Tag Heuer buyers are all going to call Tag Heuer to say, "Hey, I have a history with you. I want this watch. I want this, that, and the other." And same, I'm sure Ronnie's phone probably went berserk over the last, God knows for those that know him personally, asking for that thing. So I don't know.
Another one.
Do you think this is a good price point? Yes. I would actually say that it's a perfect price point because it doesn't cheapen the brand. Another issue that people had with Omega is that they're cheapening their brand. Now, I argued that with the fact that this is not an Omega, this is a Swatch, right? And to go back to the last question, the reason they're making so many because that's what Swatch does. They manufacture watches in humongous numbers, right? But I think that anything less than 1,500 bucks, you would be cheapening that brand. Could they have done it at 1,000? Could have done it at 1,200? Maybe, but anything under 1,000, I think you're now cheapening the brand. You have to keep. This is a Tag Heuer. This is not a Swatch tag. This is a tag, right? So Tag Heuer, they're keeping a proper price point on the Swatch, and I think that it also for those that are going to be buying these, gives you may sound stupid, but it sort of gives you a warm feeling saying, "Hey, I have on a $1,500 watch. This is not some cheap $300-400 watch," right? Because when you're buying brand name watches out there, a lot of it is for the flex factor, and that flex factor always ties to price, right? So a $1,500 watch is a good price point. Could it have been cheaper? Yes. Would it have made it more accessible to more people? Yes. But perhaps we can speculate all we want, but the people at Tag, the people at Kith, they know what they're doing, and they came up, they didn't just pull that price out of thin air, especially considering they made it so limited. All right, guys, I'm going to talk about what was the next topic? We're going to talk about Only Watch, right? So they postponed the 2023 edition over controversy of in lamest terms, that people didn't know where that money was going. They weren't transparent enough to say, "Hey, we took this money, we gave it to, let's say, the American Cancer Society or some other charity, or we donated it locally to children." None of that was disclosed. Uh, Obviously, that hit the media. Media went wild, and brands started pulling out. Originally, last year, they were supposed to have 60 watches, I believe, or 60 vendors, I should say. And now vendors are back. Show is going on, but now we're down to 47. One of the, I guess, notable brands that pulled out, which kind of sucks because I love that watch, was Audemars Piguet, and it didn't come back in. Who else was there? I'm trying to remember who else was there, and then they pulled out. Tudor. Tudor was another one, right? And if you remember, I did the video on Only Watch, and it was I talked about all the pieces, went through. I wouldn't talk about all of them, but we went through like the majors, and I picked my favorites. Uh, my favorite I remember was the Moser MBNF, the Panda. I also really, really loved what Louis Vuitton did with Albert Einstein, and among a few others, AP obviously. Patek was another watch that everybody just destroyed when they came out with that middle repeater that had the face on the watch of Stern, right? And everybody was just like going berserk over it, going, "This is stupid." Allow myself to introduce myself. I'm just going to put my own face on there. And oddly enough, they just announced that they're not putting that watch up. They're putting in a 6301 Grand and Petite Sonnerie. Obviously, it's going to be a piece unique because it's made in stainless steel. It's going to be the only one made in stainless steel, right? Um, do I think that was a move that possibly may have been influenced by all the shit talking when they came out with the other one? I highly doubt it. I don't think Patek pays attention to that much. I'd be curious to know and hear your guys' opinion why you think they went that route. Do you think you know, it was the pressure on in the media that made them change it up, or they just decided, you know what, this is what we're gonna do, and maybe they sold that piece off if it was already made to somebody else, right? Maybe that piece will show up somewhere at a later time at some different auction. But listen, I like what Patek did. Let's put the watch up on the screen real quick. The dial is really, really cool because it's like a bluish, greenish handmade guilloche dial. Finishing is impeccable on the dial. I do like the diamond markers. They're like very, very subtle, but they're there. Um, and I love how they put only one. Right? And that the way they did that, those indicators, it's like it's not in your face, but it's there. And whoever's going to buy this watch for probably $20 million, was what this thing will probably fetch, if not more, um, is going to be looking down at that watch and seeing only one. Talk about a flex to yourself, I guess. But listen, it's nothing crazy like some of the other brands did, right? Because the theme of Only Watch Auction was all these multicolor watches, right? And I mean, every brand has gone crazy. I remember Gronefeld did this ridiculous dial that's just like, wow, right? And it's so colorful, along with some of the other brands. But um, Hublot, I think, pulled out too. They also had a crazy color one, and I think they didn't come back. Now, I'm wondering the reasoning behind it because this is being like swept under the rug. There's not a whole lot of information out there because you would think that now that the auction is back, they're going to be out there with all kinds of information saying, hey, whatever people talked about us, this is all untrue. Here it all is, and so on and so forth. And you're not seeing a lot of that out there, which to me is questionable. Do I think all this controversy is going to affect the actual auction? Yes, on some brands and will, but on some brands where this becomes I mean, it's an investment a lot of the times. Like the guy that bought the Grandmaster Chime. From what I understand, that's a guy that runs some kind of a hedge funds that has these, unique collectibles, not just watches, but art and cars and so on and so forth. Right? These things do go up in value, and these things do have a value. So, if he paid 30 million bucks for that watch, in today's market it could fetch 40, do the math, right? Over X amount of years. The same thing is going to be the fate of this particular watch, along with some other watches that are on there. But for the most part, there are a lot of guys out there and girls that have more money than they know what to do with. And what do you buy somebody that already has everything? Only Watch is the perfect answer for it. And the best part about it is it's a write-off, right? It's for charity. So, these do become assets over time, but I think Only Watch is going to do exactly what it did all the other times. And there's certain brands are going to be fetching all those records. Certain brands are going to have notable records. But one thing will stand true is every single one of those watches, I'm going to take Patek Philippe aside for a second. Every single one of those watches are going to be sold for a value that's higher than what, in the eyes of a dealer like me, those watches might be worth. That's all I have to say about Only Watch, to be fair. We'll see what happens. And when is it actually? When is the new date? Do we have a new date on it? May 10th. It's the day after my birthday. So here in a few days. 47 entries remain. Wow. So I wonder who the 13 that pulled out. I know AP did. I know Tudor did. I know Hublot did. I wonder who else pulled out. Um, any comments, questions, concerns, and we can open it up to a quick Q&A before I log off of here. General questions. How much is the Moser Vanta Black Flying Turby in full rose gold? So the watch retails for 115,000 USD, brand new. The skeleton that I was wearing that they just showed at Geneva, I believe that retails for just under 80,000, which was very reasonable for what it is. What else you got? You think Romain Jerome really used the moon dust on the moon DNA model? Yes, they did. I know that for a fact. Just like they used the rust DNA from the Titanic when they came out, when they debuted. Javi?
What do you think of the fourth self-winding flying tourbillon extra thin RD number 3?
I listen, any of their research pieces or research development pieces is I'm a big fan. I'm also a big fan of Audemars Piguet, so I'm very, very biased. I've never met a Royal Oak I didn't like. So yes, I do like that watch. But for those that look at the previous RD pieces, look at the technology first and foremost. That's behind it because that's the purpose of those watches. It's not just another Royal Oak. It's where Audemars Piguet flexes their muscles in terms of innovation, high complications, and things of that nature. What was that last question you popped up? Did you sign up to get a Kith watch? I'm actually going to try to pull some strings and get it without signing up.
That's all we got. Wait. There you go.
What is your opinion on the Japanese luxury brand Creedor? Aesthetically, I like them, but I couldn't give you an opinion, a more technical or in-depth opinion, because I don't really have experience with those watches. For me to give opinion on certain watches, I have to have handled them on the multitude of times, but most importantly, have bought them and sold them to be able to gauge the market. Aesthetically, I think they make good-looking watches. It's about as far as I can go on that one.
That's all we got.
All right, guys. Well, this was sort of a first trial run on short format YouTube Live. Is that what this was? We did this impromptu, just sat down, started recording without any announcements. We're going to
We have hundreds of viewers.
shout out to Twitter, shout out to Instagram, shout out to YouTube. Thank you, all of you guys, for tuning in. We're going to start doing this on a regular basis. This was a bit of a trial run. Of course, on a regular basis, we're going to try to do it at times that are maybe more convenient for some, as well as letting you know ahead of time when the live will happen, what the topics will be. And just subscribe to, get the notification. So we'll see you on the next one.